Which live-action Spider-Man is really the strongest? Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, or Tom Holland? To settle it once and for all, we're breaking it down into 6 categories: raw strength feats, speed and agility, durability, intelligence and strategy, webs and gear, and finally, their spider senses. Let's start with the first category, raw strength feats. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man set the tone for superhero strength on the big screen. The defining moment comes in Spider-Man 2 during the runaway train sequence. With dozens of lives on the line, Peter fires webs into the surrounding skyscrapers and braces his body against the train. Every muscle in his arms and legs is stretched to its limit as he holds back the momentum of a speeding multi-car subway. The force rips his suit, bloodies his face, and leaves him unconscious once it's over. It's a feat of sheer willpower and muscle, stopping a force thousands of tons in motion with nothing but webs and grit.
We're slowing down!
And this wasn't his only jaw-dropper. In Spider-Man 2002, during the Queensboro Bridge climax, the Green Goblin forces Peter into an impossible choice: save Mary Jane or save a tramcar packed with children. Peter chooses both. He grips Mary Jane in one hand while holding up the cable car with his webs, straining under 2 separate loads at once. Even with some bystander help, the fact that he manages to suspend both is a staggering show of raw endurance. Across his trilogy, Tobey's Spidey repeats these moments of brute strength in Spider-Man 3 to protect MJ. But while Tobey gave us the blueprint for Spidey's muscle power, Andrew Garfield's version brought a different flavor. His strength might not be shown in the same epic set pieces, but dig a little deeper, and his feats are seriously underrated. Andrew's Spider-Man is often remembered for his speed, agility, and emotional weight, but his strength deserves more credit. Take the bridge sequence in The Amazing Spider-Man 2012. When Lizard begins tossing cars into the river, Peter reacts instantly. He webs multiple vehicles mid-air, keeping them suspended above the water. One of those cars is on fire with a child trapped inside.
What's your name? Jack?
Yes.
Let's get you out of here.
Spider-Man braces the car with a web, hauls the kid out with one arm, and reassures him with his mask. It's not just a touching scene, it shows the physical strength required to hold a burning car steady while pulling someone free. Then, in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, we see him take on Alexei Sitsevich's armored truck in the opening sequence. This isn't just a chase. Peter literally plants his feet against the asphalt, using webs like reins to slow the multi-ton vehicle. At one point, he leaps inside and physically restrains Sitsevich, disarming his weapons and slamming him into the cab. The truck screeches to a halt before reaching civilians, proving that Garfield's Spidey has the strength to bring a runaway tank on wheels under control. And don't forget the fights. The Lizard is a monster capable of ripping through walls and tossing cars, yet Andrew's Peter goes toe-to-toe with him multiple times. In their final clash, Spider-Man manages to hold Connors off long enough to inject the cure, a feat that required matching brute force with a creature built like a wrecking ball. Against Electro, he rips out heavy power cables mid-fight while shrugging off electrical shocks. But if Tobey gave us iconic visuals and Andrew proved his underrated strength, Tom Holland's Spider-Man brings things into MCU territory, meaning the feats are scaled up bigger than ever before. Tom Holland's Spider-Man entered the MCU and immediately got thrown into challenges no other live-action Peter had faced. His greatest feat comes in Spider-Man Homecoming with the Staten Island ferry disaster. After an explosion tears the vessel in half, Peter webs up the massive structure, creating a lattice that nearly holds it together. But when the webs begin snapping, he does something insane. Grabs the final strands, and physically pulls with everything he has, trying to hold the two halves of the ferry together. For a few seconds, he succeeds.
What the hell?
Analysts estimate that resisting that much force would take millions of newtons, far beyond Tobey's train, and an MCU-level display of strength. Tom's strength shows in smaller moments, too. Trapped under rubble after Vulture's warehouse collapse, he panics, then lifts the tons of concrete and steel off his back in a direct homage to one of Spidey's most famous comic scenes. In Civil War, he casually catches Bucky Barnes's metal arm punch mid-swing, overpowering a super soldier like it's nothing. And in No Way Home, rage-fueled Peter completely dominates Norman Osborn, slamming him through multiple floors of concrete, and finally raising the Goblin's glider overhead with intent to kill. The only thing that stopped him was Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. And yes, Tobey deserves credit for stepping in, but context matters. Tobey was braced directly in front of Tom, holding the glider from an angle of leverage, and Tom was already emotionally unstable in that moment. It wasn't a clash of equals. It was an older Spider-Man using position and timing to redirect a younger one consumed by rage. Even so, the fact that Holland's Peter had to be physically restrained at all shows just how powerful he'd become by that point. So the winner of this strength showdown goes to Tom Holland's Spider-Man. He may be the youngest of the trio, but his feats are the heaviest, his opponents the toughest, and his victories the most physically demanding. Strength can win a fight, but speed decides how many hits you take getting there. And when it comes to agility, Spider-Man is defined by impossible flips, lightning-fast reflexes, and the kind of acrobatics that make even other superheroes stare. Let's break down how each live-action Spidey moves when the pace picks up. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man has power in every swing, but his movement style is heavier, almost like a street brawler. He can dodge bullets in the hallway fight with Flash and leap clear of Goblin's razor bats, but his agility is less about smooth fluidity and more about raw athleticism. His web swinging looks cinematic and weighty, almost like he's pulling skyscrapers toward him with every swing. When he moves, it's believable, but it's not flashy in the same way his successors would be.
I'm coming!
Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, on the other hand, is pure style. His movements are fluid, acrobatic, and almost balletic. In The Amazing Spider-Man 2, we get that jaw-dropping Times Square sequence where his spider sense slows the world down. In seconds, Andrew's Peter flips, twists, and angles his body mid-air, dodging Electro's blasts while saving a crowd of civilians. His web swinging is the smoothest we've ever seen, with long, graceful arcs and parkour-like flips through the city.
Alright, that's enough. Mike? Yeah. Big John?
If Tobey felt powerful, Andrew felt untouchable, as if being Spider-Man was second nature. Tom Holland's Spider-Man combines the two approaches. His agility isn't as graceful as Andrew's, but it's sharper and more efficient. In Civil War, he's darting around the airport battle, flipping off Giant Man while weaving through Avengers-level attacks. In Infinity War, he's web-swinging across alien battlefields and leaping between collapsing debris like it's nothing. And in Far From Home, his agility peaks during the Mysterio illusion fight. With nothing but his Peter Tingle guiding him, Tom Spidey moves like lightning, weaving through dozens of armed drones and blasting them mid-air in one continuous flawless motion. It's less about style points and more about survival efficiency, and it works. So the winner of this agility contest, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. His movement is the cleanest, the fastest, and the most acrobatic of the three. Tom comes close thanks to his spider sense-driven reactions, while Tobey lags slightly behind with a more grounded style. But speed doesn't mean much if you can't take a hit, and Spider-Man has taken some brutal ones. Let's see which version can absorb the most punishment and keep swinging. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man might be the toughest when it comes to pure endurance. In Spider-Man 1, Green Goblin absolutely brutalizes him. Pumpkin bombs to the face, smash through walls, beaten bloody, and Tobey still claws his way to victory. In Spider-Man 2, he nearly tears his body apart, stopping that runaway train, passes out, and still manages to drag himself into another fight with Doc Ock moments later. By Spider-Man 3, he's tanking Sandman's concrete fists, Venom's symbiote-enhanced strikes, and collapsing steel beams, yet keeps swinging. Tobey's Spidey fights like a heavyweight boxer. He can take hits that should kill him and keep moving forward. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man takes a different approach. His durability isn't showcased the same way. His strength is in dodging damage, not eating it. When he does get caught, it shows. In The Amazing Spider-Man, a gunshot to the leg slows him down. Against Lizard, he gets tossed through walls like a ragdoll. In TASM2, Electro's shock sent him crashing, forcing him to rely on strategy instead of toughness. Andrew's Peter is still resilient, or he gets back up after every hit, but he feels more vulnerable. His pain tolerance seems more human compared to the others. Tom Holland's Spider-Man blends both worlds. In Homecoming, when Vulture drops a warehouse on him, Peter panics at first, but then digs deep and lifts literal tons of rubble off his back. In Far From Home, he gets hit by a speeding train, not a metaphor, a literal train, and somehow survives with only bruises. And in No Way Home, Norman Osborn ragdolls him through building floors, slamming him into concrete, and Peter not only survives but comes back angrier, dishing out punishment of his own. Add in moments from Infinity War and Endgame where he takes on alien hordes and keeps going, and Tom's durability is consistently top tier. So the winner of this durability test goes to Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. He takes the nastiest beatings, absorbs the most pain, and still wins fights while half dead. Tom comes in second with his mix of durability and resilience, while Andrew's agility-first style makes him the least tank-like of the three. So far, we've covered strength, speed, and toughness. Now it's time to step away from fists and bruises and look at brains, because Spider-Man isn't just a wall crawler, he's also a genius. Let's see how each live-action Spider-Man stacks up in this department. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man shows flashes of intelligence, but his films focus more on heart than science. Still, he's not clueless. In Spider-Man 2, he figures out how to overload Doc Ock's fusion reactor in the middle of battle. He uses street smarts too, and like dodging Green Goblin's glider at the last second, turning Norman's weapon against him. That said, Tobey's Peter doesn't invent gadgets or experiment much. His powers are organic, so his brains don't shine through as strongly as the others. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man leans heavily into Peter's inventor side. He designs his own web shooters, formulates the polymer web fluid, and builds gadgets to track and fight enemies.
Corp's biocable tensile strength is unparalleled. We're just beginning to understand all the potential industrial
When facing Electro in TASM 2, he upgrades his shooters with insulated cartridges so they don't short out. Against Lizard, he rigs up cameras across the city to study Connors' movements and develops a cure for his mutation. Andrew's Peter is clever, inventive, and tactical. A pure do-it-yourself Spider-Man who embodies the brainy side of the character. Tom Holland's Spider-Man combines youthful genius with the resources of the MCU. He brews his own web formula in chemistry class, hacks the training wheels off his Stark suit, and designs advanced web combinations mid-battle. He's also a quick thinker under pressure. In Civil War, he uses a giant tripwire plan to topple Giant Man, straight out of Empire Strikes Back. In Infinity War, he improvises to save Doctor Strange by webbing Ebony Maw into space. And in No Way Home, he helps devise cures for villains across multiple universes, proving his brain is as important as his fists. Tom's blend of raw intelligence and real-time strategy makes him dangerous no matter the odds. So the winner of this brains versus brawn category goes to Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. His DIY inventiveness and scientific creativity show Peter Parker at his most hands-on. Tom comes close with his MCU-scale problem-solving, while Tobey's Peter lands in third for relying more on instinct and grit than gadgets or science. Of course, intelligence isn't just about ideas, it's about what you build with them. And nothing defines Spider-Man more than his webs. So next, we're putting their gear and gadgets under the microscope. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man keeps things simple. His webs are organic, shooting straight out of his wrists. The biggest advantage? He never runs out of web fluid. In the middle of a fight, that consistency is huge. He doesn't have to worry about reloading cartridges or tech breaking down. But the trade-off is flexibility. Tobey can swing and trap enemies, sure, but he doesn't have ricochet webs, taser webs, or drones to back him up. His gear is raw, reliable, and limited. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man brings back the classic web shooters, and his films highlight how impressive that is. Andrew designs the shooters himself, formulates the web fluid, and even modifies them in TASM 2 to withstand Electro's shocks. He used them creatively too, wrapping entire groups of thugs in seconds, pulling cars to safety, and snapping out multiple strands at once to lock down the Lizard. The downside? His gear can break or run dry, which happens at critical moments. Still, his inventiveness makes his webbing feel dynamic and personal, like an extension of his brain. Tom Holland's Spider-Man gets the tech jackpot. With Stark's upgrades, his shooters have hundreds of web combinations, taser webs, explosive webs, ricochet webs, rapid-fire modes, even an insta-parachute. His suits also come loaded with features, enhanced optics, AI analysis, drone support, and of course, the Iron Spider's mechanical legs.
What else can this suit do? What? Maybe we should run that refresher course.
Ricochet web.
Ricochet web.
The criticism is fair. Some fans feel this makes him too reliant on Stark's tech. But when you watch him in Infinity War, deploying instant kill mode, or in Homecoming experimenting with new combinations mid-fight, it's clear Tom uses that tech to its full potential. It doesn't replace his skills, it enhances them. So the winner of this gear round goes to Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Between hundreds of web variations and Stark-level gadgets, his arsenal simply outclasses the others. Andrew takes second for his DIY shooters and clever modifications, while Tobey's reliable organic webs keep him steady in third. But something that matters more than webs, more than strength, Spider-Man's greatest survival tool might be his spider sense. It's that uncanny sixth sense that warns him of danger before it strikes. Each live-action Spidey has shown it, some more dramatically than others. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man demonstrates his spider sense early and often. In Spider-Man 2002, the cafeteria scene is a perfect example. Peter reacts instinctively, catching a falling tray of food, dodging a punch from Flash Thompson, and flipping his bully over his shoulder without even thinking. Throughout his trilogy, we see Tobey dodge Goblin's glider, avoid Doc Ock's attacks, and react to gunfire almost instantly. His spider sense is consistent and effective, even if the films never spotlighted as a major power. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man takes the visual flair up a notch. In The Amazing Spider-Man 2, during the Times Square showdown, his spider sense is portrayed in slow motion. Andrew's Peter senses every threat in the environment, from civilians at risk to Electro charging up a blast, and maneuvers through it all in one seamless sequence. It's a showcase of awareness and agility working together, and it's one of the clearest cinematic depictions of how Spider-Sense operates. Tom Holland's Spider-Man brings Spider-Sense to its most impactful moment yet. At first, his MCU films played it lightly, jokingly calling it the Peter Tingle. But by Far From Home, it became essential, allowing him to defeat Mysterio's illusions by trusting his instincts, dodging dozens of drones with perfect timing.
You can't trick me anymore.
And in No Way Home, it reaches its peak. In one of the film's most chilling scenes, Peter quietly senses something's wrong in Happy's condo. The tension builds, and then his eyes lock onto Norman Osborn, realizing before anyone else that the Goblin persona has returned. That moment isn't just cinematic brilliance, it's proof that Tom's spider sense is sharper than ever, picking up danger even from a trusted ally turned enemy. So the winner of this spider sense showdown goes to Tom Holland's Spider-Man. His instincts not only save his life in illusions and battles, they change the course of No Way Home itself. So the ultimate winner of this Spider-Man showdown goes to Tom Holland.